I want to say a special thanks to Chairman Harris, who took us to church on the floor this morning when you spoke about the budget so beautifully. And I want to thank Leader Costa and Chairman Hughes for your outstanding work in the State Senate. Thank you very much, gentlemen. And I want to give great thanks to a man I have known for 2 decades who has been a dear friend and an outstanding leader for the House Democrats and who was the primary negotiator for the House, and that is Leader Matt Bradford. Thank you. Thank you. I also want to thank the other leaders who are not with us this evening, especially Leader Pittman, who led the negotiations quite ably in the Pennsylvania Senate. We're all better off for his hard work. I want to thank the dedicated staff in our administration and from the legislature who worked extremely long nights. They forwent sleep, and they spent a whole lot of time away from home and their families and loved ones to get this done. I know that the House and Senate have incredible staff, and we had the opportunity to work alongside them. I want to give special thanks to a few members of my team: Zach Reber, Secretary Ori Monson, Secretary TJ Yablonsky, and the person who has been by my side for more than a dozen years, our Chief of Staff, Dana Fritz. Thank you. Throughout this process, everyone came to the table with a willingness to have hard conversations, find compromise, and get stuff done. We trusted one another, and we listened to one another, and we understood one another. This budget is a major victory for the people we were all elected to serve, the good people of Pennsylvania. You know, I spent a lot of time outside this building in Pennsylvanians' neighborhoods and towns, listening to them. And while the landscapes may look different, people from all different walks of life, from rural, urban, and suburban communities, folks basically want the same 4 things. They want good schools for their kids and grandkids. They want safe communities. They want economic opportunity. And they want the real freedom to chart their own course and the opportunity to succeed right here in Pennsylvania. This bipartisan budget that I am about to sign delivers on all 4 of those common sense Pennsylvania priorities. So let's start with education. Last year, the court ruled that all parties have to come together to deliver adequate and equitable education for our children. We began that work in our first budget when we delivered an historic amount for our public schools. This budget continues that progress and goes a hell of a lot further. This budget, for the first time ever, will invest over $11 billion in K-12 public education here in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Now, let me put that in some perspective for everybody. That is $1.1 billion more than we invested last year, a record amount. But we're not just delivering more funding. We're also fixing how we drive that money out to our schools. Consider this: 65% of all of this new money to our schools will be driven out under a new formula that drives those dollars into the districts that need it most, the districts that have been chronically underfunded. That's never happened before. Advocates and some elected leaders, including the 3 leaders who sit before me this afternoon, this evening, well, they have fought for that formula for decades. And you know what? Together, we got it done. This is a huge win, and I'm committed to building on that progress for many years to come. On top of that, on top of the dollars that just flow to our schools, guess what? Kids are still going to get free breakfast when they show up for school in the morning. Students are still going to get the mental health supports that they need to succeed. And we're going to continue to invest more resources in repairing and upgrading our schools and our school infrastructure so that our schools are safe year-round. But our investments in education, they are not confined to just K-12 classrooms. We're also making sure that our students get a great start by delivering meaningful increases in early childhood education, including pre-K, counts, and Head Start. And as those kids enjoy their summer breaks right now, and some of them begin their life after school, we're making sure they have safer streets and safe communities to live in. This budget builds on the progress that we made last year, providing funds to hire an additional 400 state troopers across Pennsylvania. All told, on our collective watch, that means 800 new state troopers that we have funded over the last 2 years. And we're investing more in PSP to help them modernize their vehicle fleet and implement common sense public safety initiatives like body-worn cameras now being deployed all across the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. And it's not just with PSP. We're also investing in the well-being of our corrections officers to create a better environment for them and for those behind bars in our prisons. We have to invest in well-trained, well-equipped law enforcement. But hear me on this. We also have to invest in our communities and the folks on the ground who are doing the violence prevention work every single day. That's why we secured a 40% increase for violence intervention and prevention initiatives that includes $11.5 million in new funding for after-school programs to keep kids safe and off the street and provide them real opportunity going forward. That investment will complement the work Lieutenant Governor Davis will lead through the Pennsylvania Office of Gun Violence Prevention. The LG has experienced firsthand the impacts of gun violence. These initiatives were priorities of his, and we fought hard to make sure they were in this final budget that I am about to sign. Listen, Pennsylvanians should be able to walk down the street in their neighborhood, free from fear. I've walked down those streets with Chairman Hughes. We know that people crave that safety, and we're delivering on that promise to them. They deserve to both be safe and feel safe in their communities, and we're delivering for them. Our budget also delivers opportunity, economic opportunity. For the first time in 20 years, we have a strategic plan to grow our economy, to foster innovation, create jobs, and to compete again. Since day one, we have been aggressively pursuing companies, and we've been winning. But as I've said, in order to win more of these deals and create more jobs and more opportunity, well, we have to invest. You've heard me talk about this. And this budget does exactly that, with massive new investments in economic development that will create economic opportunities for communities all across Pennsylvania. From a new initiative to invest $20 million in our main streets, to millions in marketing to drive our tourism industry and set folks up for their own great American getaway right here in Pennsylvania. From innovating on our farms to taking vacant land and turning piles of abandoned dirt into real jobs. Crucially, it makes an unprecedented $500 million investment in site development so we have pads ready for businesses that want to come here to Pennsylvania. These unprecedented investments will help us execute our economic development strategy. We're creating real opportunity, not just for our businesses, but for Pennsylvanians who need a little bit of extra help. We've been laser focused, all of us here, on cutting costs for seniors and families to give them more freedom and more opportunity in this economy. Last year, we cut taxes for seniors for the first time in 2 decades, and we passed an historic tax cut for families with children in childcare. Well, this budget continues that cost-cutting commitment for our fellow Pennsylvanians. For parents trying to afford childcare or saving up maybe to put their kid in college, we've created 2 new tax credits to help you out. For Pennsylvanians paying interest on their student loan debt, well, now you have to pay less in taxes. And for our neighbors in Western Pennsylvania, out where Senator Costa lives in that area, who received government assistance and that we fought hard for after the Norfolk Southern train derailment in East Palestine, those payments will now not be subjected to the personal income tax here in Pennsylvania. That's on top of our continued commitment to continue to cut the corporate net income tax in Pennsylvania and make us far more competitive in this economy. And for the first time, we have a major expansion of the net operating loss deduction to catch up with 40 other states across the country and help startups right here in Pennsylvania get off the ground and compete. Look, Pennsylvanians in every community, in every background, they deserve more freedom to chart their own course, more opportunity to succeed. Our loved ones and neighbors with intellectual disabilities, well, they deserve to live with dignity and to have the supports that they need to succeed. This budget delivers an historic amount for them and begins the process of finally ending the wait list for services that they need. You know, I have been moved to tears over these years when these good folks who would walk into our offices and wheel themselves into our offices with tremendous courage, only to be ignored months later when a final budget was passed. Tonight, when I called a bunch of those families to tell them about the unprecedented investment that these leaders helped bring about, I was moved to tears again. But this time, it was tears of joy. Tears of joy, because we got this done together for them. We respect our loved ones with intellectual disabilities. The IDA community was finally heard in these halls of power. Our veterans deserve more opportunities. So we're building a new outreach center at Fort Indian Town Gap. Those struggling to find housing deserve more opportunities, so we're increasing the fair funding cap to help build more affordable housing and apartments. And we are making sure that folks who are facing eviction, well, they now have access to legal representation so they get a fair shot to stay in their homes. Freedom and opportunity comes when you have access to quality, affordable health care, no matter where you live. That's especially important in our rural communities. Our budget delivers that freedom and opportunity by investing in them so folks have health care in rural Pennsylvania. You know, there are 280,000 of our fellow Pennsylvanians living with Alzheimer's today. We want to know that our loved ones are being taken care of. So this bipartisan budget delivers by creating the first Alzheimer's disease division ever in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania. Even for those behind bars, we know we have a responsibility to give them an opportunity to both pay their debt to society and turn their lives around. This budget does that by funding medicated-assisted treatment for prisoners because, hear me on this, I've said it before, I'll say it again, addiction is a disease, not a crime. We are delivering historic funding for our schools, for public safety, and for economic development. But this budget is more than just a bunch of numbers on a spreadsheet. You said that, Mr. Chairman, and I heard you. It also delivers common sense solutions to real problems Pennsylvanians face every single day. Let me give you just a few examples. For the last 30 years, we've been playing a game of subtraction when it comes to higher education. But this year, thanks to the incredible work of Chairman Shapiro, who joins us today, the chairman of the House Education Committee, together with the work of Chairman Topper and staff in all four caucuses in our administration, we are taking meaningful action for the first time in decades when it comes to higher education. We're creating a state board of higher education to finally coordinate higher ed in Pennsylvania and collect real data about what's working and what's not, so we can meet the critical workforce needs and ensure higher ed serves as an economic driver for generations to come. And this budget establishes a performance-based funding formula for our state-relateds. so taxpayers will have confidence that the investment they're making will lead to even better outcomes. We're increasing our investment in PASHE schools and community colleges, and once again, we are increasing our investment in our 2 HBCUs right here in Pennsylvania. We are committing more resources to scholarships to make college more affordable and encourage students to pursue in-demand careers. We're investing state funds in nursing apprenticeships for the first time ever. And we saw how many people applied last year when we made the student-teacher stipends available for the first time. 4,000 people applied in just the first few hours. So we're doubling the amount of resources going to that initiative so we can get more teachers into our classrooms and make sure student teachers are fairly compensated for their hard work. You know, as I've traveled across Pennsylvania, I've heard loud and clear from business owners that one problem they face in government is a whole lot of red tape. Well, my administration has made it a priority since literally day one to move at the speed of business. We have made tremendous progress. Consider this. The day I got sworn in, it took 8 weeks to get a business license in Pennsylvania. Today, it just takes 2 days. And now, we are building on that progress with permitting reform that will allow us to move even quicker. Permitting reform. Permitting reform, like many of these other issues we're addressing tonight, permitting reform that has been talked about in this building for more than a decade, we are getting it done right here. Now, I want to be clear, just because we're moving quicker doesn't mean that permits become rubber stamps. We are guaranteeing a timely response, but we aren't guaranteeing a yes, because we understand that while we move quickly and efficiently, we still have a responsibility to protect public health and safety and our environment. That's why this budget builds on our progress to cap orphaned wells and abandoned oil and gas wells all across Pennsylvania. And as of this week, our administration has plugged 250 wells, more than the last 10 years combined. That means fewer greenhouse gas emissions here in Pennsylvania. The budget delivers more funding so we can continue to ramp up those efforts. And it provides more funding to test for PFAS in our water so we can continue our work to protect Pennsylvanians' constitutional right there in Article 1, Section 27, to clean air and pure water. And while we're protecting Pennsylvanians' health, well, we've got to do a whole lot more to address maternal health. Last year, we put a bunch of money into studying and preventing maternal mortality in Pennsylvania for the first time ever. And as we were here celebrating that last year, Representative Cephas, the chair of the Women's Health Caucus, she celebrated and then she gave me the side eye. And when she gave me the side eye, she was there to tell me this was just a down payment. This was just a beginning. Well, I heard Representative Cephas, and that is why we have doubled our investment in maternal health here in Pennsylvania. This budget also addresses a challenge for so many girls who lack access to pads and tampons at home and at school. Look, I know this is something we don't often talk about. I mean, now I talk about it a lot, but we didn't talk about it before. We didn't talk about it until the First Lady spent time last year meeting with nonprofits and young women and hearing their stories. Lori's spoken to girls who have literally missed school because they got their period and had to run home because there were no products available to them at school. Well, this budget makes pads and tampons available at no cost in our schools because girls deserve to have peace of mind so they can focus on learning. Another big problem, not just here in Pennsylvania, but across the nation, comes from so-called pharmacy benefit managers. Let me explain. For too long, we've had this middleman, the pharmacy benefit managers, manipulating and profiting off pharmaceutical system at the expense of consumers and community pharmacies. But this year, we came together to pass landmark reforms to bring transparency to how pharmacy benefit managers operate, to keep more money in Pennsylvanians' pockets, and to help our small and independent businesses thrive and survive. I'm proud to tell you that this is a reform that industry absolutely hates, which means we did something right. And by the way, here's a reform that folks will like. Thanks to this budget, you'll be able to get your high noons and your statesides made right here in Pennsylvania at your local grocery store or your local gas station. That is real freedom right there. And it's important to note that we made that reform while also protecting the taxpayers and supporting our state workers. Now, finally, this budget includes a temporary solution for mass transit, a service that nearly 1 million Pennsylvanians rely on every single day. Major employers count on trains and buses and trolleys to get their employees to and from the office. And our seniors depend on shared rides for 2.6 million trips every year, especially crucial in our rural communities. We secured an additional $80 million for our public transit system in this budget. But hear me on this. That is just a start. Myself, Leader Bradford, Senator Pittman, we are all committed to returning in the fall and finding a permanent solution for mass transit across Pennsylvania. Now look, we have shown that we can come together and get stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. We are the only state in the nation with a divided legislature, and that requires all of us to compromise. That's exactly what Leader Pittman and Leader Bradford and I did at the table. That's the spirit that everyone brought to these conversations. To give a little bit, but to hang in there, to stay focused on making progress for the good people of Pennsylvania. And listen, when we do make progress, when we move the ball down the field, we should celebrate that. We should be proud of that, particularly in these polarized times where a lot of folks feel like nothing's getting done. Here in Pennsylvania, we are proving that we can make progress, that we can bring people together to solve big problems. Look, no one in the room got everything that they wanted. And there were some things we didn't get done this time that we're all going to come back and fight for next time. But in a productive democracy, this is how progress is made. By moving past partisan politics and having real conversations, together, we get stuff done for the good people of Pennsylvania. And with that, I want to invite the leaders and others to join me as we sign our budget bill, and then we'll return to take some questions. Thank you all very much. First day of June, right? Works good. Go answer some questions.
You all can hang out right here. Governor's just going to ask questions.
Hang out right here. It was my idea.
I want to give this to the lawyers, so this actually, give that to order there.
Real document.
Y'all want to hear? Let me take a few questions from the media here. Manuel, Will?
Do you want to elaborate on what happened with some of the revenue increases that you proposed, marijuana legalization, skill games tax? What happened during negotiations? Why were they cut?
Well, here's one thing I'm not going to do. I'm not going to get into any conversations from the negotiations that did not end up in the budget or the related codes. As I said before, everybody had to compromise, and we didn't always get what we wanted, but we all are going to come back and continue to fight for the things that we believe in. And the things that I laid out in my budget, I still believe in, and we're going to continue to fight for in the future. All right. Thank you all very much. Oh, Dennis.
House Republicans especially are concerned about the spend number, $2.5 billion over last year. They're going to say the floor next year is going to be 47.6. That the spending is unsustainable. What's your response?
This budget makes critical investments. This budget cuts taxes. This budget transfers an additional $700 million into the rainy day fund. And this budget will have around $14 billion still in surplus. Anything else? Yep.
Governor, with regard to the higher ed bills, particularly the bill about closer coordination between the community colleges and PASHE, is that what you were looking for in your higher ed plan, or are you going to be looking for more merging of the systems later on?
I'm really pleased with where we ended up. We brought a lot of different ideas together, and again, I want to thank Chairman Schweier for his stewardship of this through the House of Representatives. Everybody worked together in a bipartisan manner. I think the product we came up with was very good. We have to continue to fund higher education. That's something I'm going to be committed to in next year's budget and budgets in the future.
Governor, to follow up on Jackson's question, President Pro Tem Moore said that from you was a lot of show, but not a lot of go on those revenue generators as well as the tax. Is there any truth to this?
This was a bipartisan budget in both chambers. It's something we should be celebrating, and that's exactly what we're doing here this evening. Anything else?
Governor.
Charlie?
Yeah, Governor, so...
Call it Charlie, but go ahead.
He held it off to me, so I just...
Wait. Charlie yielded to you? Charlie, you're willing to give up your question?
I'm hoping I'll get another one.
Oh, all right. Well, maybe he'll yield back to you when he's done. Go ahead.
Just curious, so, we had the school funding ruling, you have a first year of that down, but House Democrats had a plan for 7 years to try and get schools up to where they need to be. Do you have a plan for how to get us to,
we budget 1 year at a time, and we're going to continue to build on the progress that we made. This is a beginning, not an end. We're going to come and build on this progress that we made. You want to yield to Charlie now?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, you spoke a lot about the compromises that were involved, and I was just wondering if you could say, for you, was there anything that stands out as the one or two hardest compromises that you had to swallow hard on?
Everybody worked really hard. Everybody was honest. Everybody was forthright, and everybody made compromises, myself included. And I'm proud of the result. The compromise yielded progress. All right? Thank you all very, very much. Appreciate it. Good job.